Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jason Whitehead, one of your co-hosts of the Jason's Take On podcast over here in sunny Washington, D.C. And I am joined by my co-host, Jason Noble in the UK. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, I'm one of the other co-host here. So really excited to be here for this podcast, talking about a really exciting topic, but I'll let Jason introduce this and our guest speaker.
Awesome. Thank you. And today we are excited to be joined by our guest, Dickey Singh, who is the CEO and co-founder of Cast.app, a really exciting company with a really neat tool to help customer success move forward with automation and scale and do some great things. And we're going to be talking about scaling CS with automation and looking at everything from what are some automation tools and how do they help you to even some exciting things they're doing with on-demand business reviews and other ways to continuously add value to the full automation engine. So really excited. I've had a chance to catch up with Dickey a couple of times now and love what he's doing in his organization. So I guess before we jump in, Dickey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, your company, and then we'll jump in.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, and everyone else over here. I'm Dickey Singh, as you mentioned, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cast.app. And Cast.app is laser focused on scaling customer success, renewals, expansion, advocacy, and everything that goes with customer success, but using automation. So we have an automation tool and happy to talk more about it.
That's great. Thank you. To kick us off here, we often hear people talk about scaling with automation, or at least historically in the CS space. I think a lot of the go-to assumption has been that it's going to be low touch, digital touch. I mean, a lot of automated emails or in-app engagement like surveys or videos or links to help documents or those kind of things. But it sounds like we're moving beyond that now. And in your website, you talked about automate, personalize, and humanize every user experience and interaction throughout the user journey. And I thought that was really an interesting take because in my mind, that's very different than just sending off some automated emails and moving things quicker. Can you tell me a little bit about what you mean by this and what does it look like and how is this different from what we typically talk about CS? And what is the new version of CS automation?
Yeah, actually, great question and diving right in. That's amazing. If you think about it, how often have you opened an email that was sent to you? Or how often have you opened like a PDF or a report that was emailed to you? And I'm talking about like the traditionally known one-to-many, right? Yes, we do open emails, but our vendors or like we tend to overwhelm our customers with so many emails and so much information. And we want to try to cover every point. Like I want to give you 20 recommendations, miss one or so. But the problem with that is the same problem we had with dashboards. Why don't executives visit dashboards? Because we give them 8 tabs. We are showing like 20 graphics per tab, and we tend to overwhelm our dashboard users. And then we tend to overwhelm our users with like email. So how we think of it is instead of overwhelming our account or sending the same thing to everyone at the account, why can't we personalize this for each user at account? The reason I say that is the needs and the outcomes that a CEO or a C-level person desires versus the V-level person or an operator or an individual contributor desires are like totally different, right? The individual contributor may be focused on, hey, how did my email campaign go? The operator may be focused on how is this business doing versus this business doing. And the C-level guy is usually focused on all those kind of things. Like, am I getting the ROI? And we all know, once you solve that ROI problem, renewals become a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because you're talking about the different user roles and levels where I think a lot of times when I hear people talk about automation, they talk about a low touch and high touch and medium touch. Already you're looking at this, I think, in a different way.
I think the really exciting thing is it does apply. We were saying at the beginning when we were carrying the preamble, it applies to any type of customer. I mean, this can have value to any customer. I think automating and adding this intelligent automation to the right parts of the customer journey is critical, and it applies to every single customer. And I think one of the key things I'd be interested in getting your thoughts on, Dickey, is I know you guys offer some services where you automate business reviews or on-demand business reviews. How do you go about doing that? Because that is something that a lot of companies spend a lot of time and effort preparing them to your point that sometimes they're not read, the information is not looked at, but how do you go about automating them and putting that information together?
Yeah, another great question, right? QBRs and EBRs are the QBRs for the stakeholders and EBRs for the bosses of the stakeholders. That's how I think of them. If you think there are 2 or 3 problems with those, right? One, we hear from our customers, they're infrequent, yeah, because they're quarterly or yearly. And then we say they're too long, 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And then we have data which says that the C-level people stop showing up for QBRs after the first two. The V level stop showing it after the first four. And then you're again talking to the champion who helped you create that QBR in the first earlier in the day. So what we are thinking is that we started calling it a digital business review, which is 3 to 4 minutes, is just, it's to the point. It's the right message to the right person at the right time of where the user is in the journey. Notice I did not say customer is in the journey, as a user is in the journey. The reason I'm saying that explicitly is because when a new hire comes in, they need to be like trained. They need to go through adoption. They need to go through the same retention cycles. So these digital business reviews are automatically generated from data. We go, depending on how mature the organization is, like larger organizations have like a data warehouse. We get the data directly from a data warehouse, or anyone can get the data from the warehouse. Or if they don't have a data warehouse, you can go get it from a customer success platform, the CRM platform, your Zendesk or whatever ticket management system, and your advocacy platforms. You get the data, you put it together as a digital business review, but it doesn't stop there. A digital business review is interactive. In other words, when you show some information to a user and we show it as a recommendation instead of thinking of like an upsell or a cross sell or anything similar. So when they take an action after you show them something, it gets recorded directly in the same system of record where we got it from. For example, if they are interested in learning more about a recommendation that you made, oh, you should look at these features. They click on it, it gets recorded into your CRM, said this person is interested in this feature. So it becomes like a more end-to-end system versus just a QBR that you do once a quarter or an EBR, which you do once a year.
But something like that sounds fascinating to me. It seems a couple things come to mind with that. One is that it's a concept of micro learning just in time. Here you are, small enough chunk that trying to get a C-level executive to a 30-minute meeting or an hour-long meeting on a regular basis is a challenge. But getting some, hey, can you spend 4 minutes between meetings just to prep for your next one about this would be huge. A lot of the consulting work that I do and have done over the years has been working on with buyers of software. And half my business is customer success. Half is hands-on with the buyers of software to help them drive adoption internally. And one of the things that we routinely have to do is help the executives figure out how they're going to monitor and then drive effective usage of a platform within their own organization and cascade that down. And many times they're like, all right, I can put it on the agenda for my meeting. I have a weekly meeting with my team, but I need to know before that what I should be asking them, where it needs to go. And I could see arming them with this kind of information 3 minutes before my meeting. I can come in and see what I need to see and have a more effective meeting with my team to cascade through my organization. I could see what that'd be a huge thing and a very dramatic change from what I think most CS teams are doing today. So it's exciting.
And I'm nodding my head over here because product adoption is not about adopting for the users of the system. It's also for the people who are paying for that system, the economic buyers or the executives and all, right? So once you get them aligned about the usefulness of the product, they will make sure that the individual contributors or whatever have time to adopt the product. So it becomes a win-win situation.
Yeah. And what I keep finding is if you can give the executives clear evidence and clear actions that they can take to make sure they're solving their underlying business problem, that's what's really going to get. They don't care about adopting your product for the sake of it. They care about it for a venue to solve a business need they have.
I think that's something that's often overlooked. You make a good point there, Dick. I mean, it isn't just about user adoption. It's about adoption of what we're trying to deliver, adopting how we're going to help them address their outcomes or get to their outcomes. And there's too much focus quite often on just the user analytics. How are people using this? What does that mean? And there are organizations that I'm a customer of, and they'll just send me usage information and it doesn't tell me anything. I want to know, how is this helping me get the value I'm expecting from it?
Exactly. And the other beauty of this, which I forgot to mention, is it's asynchronous, right? So you don't have to all come together in a Zoom or a meeting or in person to do this. You can send this, and someone who wakes up at 5 for an exec, they can watch it at 5 a.m. Somebody can watch it at midnight or whatever the scenario may be.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm wondering, as you help organizations automate their CS platform or program, I should say, the go-to instinct has typically been, that's a low touch or a digital touch approach and things like that. How does automation, especially some of the things that you guys have worked on or seen over the years, fit with medium and high touch customers as well too? And do you have people typically come to you and say, I just want to automate my low touch, and then they don't realize they can do it for medium and high touch, or how does this typically work? most organizations.
So when we talk to customers, the first thing we try to figure out is like how they're segmenting their user base or customer base. And depending on like how they're like segmenting it, we answer the questions differently. If they're using like a traditional approach, which is ARR or potential ARR based, then they would have like some accounts in the top which are paying them a lot.
Mhm.
And they have like CSMs, named CSMs or so. So if you take, and that could be anywhere from companies like Pipedrive and Google and Notion, that's as small as like 3 to 4%. And whereas if you look at some other companies, they have 60% of the customers are in the top tier. And it depends on what ARPA, what annual revenue you're getting per account. So the smaller the ARPA, the bigger the low touch, medium touch, and no touch or so.
Sure.
So we always start with, let us help you with anything that's not named accounts, which is usually low touch, medium touch, and no touch, because that's so easy for us to show, immediate value for the no touch and the low touch. A lot of customers, we ask, so what are you doing for the no touch and low touch? A lot of times they say nothing, and it's say the cost of doing nothing versus doing something. What's the difference? And they immediately understand what the advantage. And then, it's easier for us to sign them on with at the end. But there are several customers who segment very differently. And I'm going to plagiarize some of the stuff that Wayne McCulloch has put in his book, which is you put like weightages and you put a lot of other factors, just like how you calculate like customer health. You calculate, there may be a big customer like Coca-Cola or so. They may have their so many employees that they don't need that much customer success going on, but there may be a very small customer that may need. So depending on how you segment it, we kind of tell them like where you should start. But everyone kind of starts with a digital business review of some sorts, which is interactive, and moves on to a full automation engine because they learn more. And when they move on to a full automation engine, a lot of times they involve the top tier. What they say to the top tier is different to what they say to the other tiers we were talking about, low,
Yeah.
medium, no touch. And who the message goes to could also be different. And I want to make it clear. So typically you should send the conversations to your customers where they are. Like, for example, a user who logs into the product, show it over. Whereas an economic buyer or an executive who will never log into a potential product, right? Talk to them over text, talk to them over email or Slack or wherever they are. But having said that, you can also send these notifications or whatever to the CSM, and that works great for the high touch tier. You send this so that he or she has talking points immediately, and they can convey it to their customers using their own PowerPoint or using their own ways of communicating as an email. However they do.
What are some of the on-demand business reviews? The kind of automating that is a huge value add. I like the idea of digital business reviews. But what else can people do or organizations do around automation that can really help scale customer success? Both in
Yeah.
terms of kind of the reach of your customer success teams, but also the impact. And I think the reach is always a challenge as businesses grow from 1 to 2 to 3 to 20, 30, 40 customers. Their revenues go up, their ARR goes up. Is it all about adding more CSMs, or is there a way that we can use automation to scale more efficiently, still drive value for customers?
Yeah. It's not about always adding more CSMs because it does not make financial sense to add CSMs, especially for the segments who are not paying a customer that much. And that's why you see executive sponsored on the top, and then you see like high touch, which is number 2. And these two have like CSMs assigned. And if you are a company like Palantir or a big company, a $22.5 million contract with the NSA, you can assign, sorry about that, but you can assign 6 CSMs to the same account. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if the customer is like paying you tens of thousands of dollars or so, it may not make sense to assign a CSM, and they can use automation over there. But when the automation is like too dumb to solve a problem, bring on a CSM or bring on a specialist or in the capacity of an advisor, right? That's what the CSMs are headed to. Instead of doing all the grunt work, they are becoming advisors. So you can do that. Did I even answer your question or?
You did, and I love the way you finished, because Jason, it's something that we've spoken about before. The idea of it's not a customer success manager; it's almost a business value consultant. And you can then get into that whole debate about whether I, as a customer, would pay for a customer success. Well, if you're driving more value for me, getting that value quicker, yes, I would pay. And it becomes almost like our last podcast. It becomes a real professional service. There's a lot more value with it. So you absolutely answered it. And I love the way you finished that.
Yeah. So Dickey, as I'm listening to you, I'm also just thinking about how would you position like the types of CS automations and the digital business reviews and the other things that you're talking about and that you guys focus on versus some of the things more like the traditional CS automation platforms, the game sites and this and that of the world. When should a company start with this type of automation that you're talking about? Is this something, hey, you're an early stage startup and you've got a little bit of funding, this will help you scale without adding more headcount, more CSMs? Or is this more of a situation where you need to have your program established, you need to have things pretty much solidified in what you want to do, and then you're ready to scale it and automate it more now that you know what you're doing and how you're going to do it?
There's no good answer for this, but I can divide it into like segments, right? If you are a product-led growth company, you are already thinking from day one how you're going to automate this. Why? Because you're going to have like hundreds of thousands of customers to millions of customers. So you have to start thinking of scale. But whereas if you are like sales led and then you have high ARPA, then you're thinking about, okay, having CSMs early on for the large accounts. But as you grow down market into SMB or other, you have to think about like automation. But for the first one, we have customers like who have like 20 customers, 25 customers, and they're thinking they're talking to us. For the second one, we recommend like anywhere between 250 or higher customers or so to start thinking about automation. And again, as I was saying, it's a mindset kind of thing, right? Because if once you have enough CSMs, then any problem that's shown to you, you will try to solve it with the same hammer. Like, hey, ask,
Yeah.
address it. Whereas if you have like a productivity tool or an automation tool, then you tend to solve those problems with the tools that you have. So that's why PLG companies think of it like very early, and other companies like when they get into SMB, when they get into like smaller accounts, they start bringing automation.
Wow.
We're seeing kind of automation and AI popping up in a lot of different business areas, and there's a huge amount of investment going into it, a lot of new ideas and visions that are coming from it. But there's absolutely been a nice trend in customer success, customer experience, and really helping customers. I think self-serve, I never liked the idea of self-serve just as a concept, I think, but there's a better way of doing it. And I think AI is helping us, but there's lots of other business areas as well that are really adding value back for CS. Are you guys looking at other areas of the business as well? And be really interested in your thoughts on what other business areas might have impact over the next couple of years. Yeah. So let me move.
Sorry. Yeah. So AI in my mind is orthogonal to whatever anyone does. I don't think at this age in almost 2022, we should talk about whether somebody wrote the program or somebody took some training data and looked at the outputs and like used that to like train their users or so. I think in our product, we use a combination of AI and manually coded stuff, right? So that's how everyone is like doing it these days. But so let's take like customer health calculation, right? You can do it like rules based. How we could take the leading indicators, the lagging indicators, apply some weightage and add them up, and you can have a composite score. Salesforce uses 128 variables and weightages, which they keep tuning every now and then. There are other companies.
128 is a lot, isn't it?
That's why they haven't been able to productize it, if you think about it, right? They keep tuning it and they're using data scientists and all those kind of things. And there are other companies who say, hey, if a company uses feature A, feature C, and feature E, they're adapted. There's no way they're going to leave. So they use that kind of preference. And then there are yet a third category of companies who say, okay, if you look at all these variables and these guys kept on renewing, what was common between them? So use that data to like train their model and come up with that. And there's a fourth category, which I won't go into, is like self-supervised learning and all, where an easiest way to explain that is cat's eyes will always be above the nose, right? So you don't have to train a system. It can just train itself. It can get the signals. If I'm going too deep into AI, stop me, but
No.
so you can train, the system can train itself, and I've written a paper about that at MIT. So that's why I'm referring it. But that's the future, right? Just looking into the data and like self-supervising and like creating those things. I think that's where we are going to head to, not only for customer health, but also for like segmentation and other things that we do for every customer facing product, not just seat platforms.
I like it.
Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of exciting things that are happening and will continue to happen. Where do you see automation having the biggest impact in the next 2 to 5 years? And where should companies start? Where should, we're thinking about it. We've got a certain amount of CS expertise that we're getting ready to scale. Where do we go first?
Yeah. So I think, again, if you're PLG led and if you have like low ARPA customers, you need to start thinking very early on. But if you have customers who are providing you a lot of dollars and everything, start with CSMs. And when you go into smaller accounts, you can think about automation at full scale. But also remember, as both of you mentioned earlier, automation led or digital led is not just for the low touch or the no touch. It's for the entire customer base. How you surface it could be different. You surface it directly
Sure.
to the customers, or you surface it to the CSM, or you automate it and like the customer takes care of it, a CSM is notified. So there are so many ways of surfacing insights and bringing it to the customers, bringing recommendations.
Absolutely.
Dickey, what we always like to do, look, a huge thank you for this. This is, I for one, am going to have a look in more detail at kind of what you guys do, the app itself. I think there's a massive value to organizations I know, but this has been a great conversation. What we always like to do with our guests at the end is give them what we call a bold challenge question. So really, this is a non-rehearsed. We want to give you a question. Would love your feedback on this. And the kind of question we want to give you is, what are the bold actions that customer success or business leaders should take today to quickly use automation to scale their reach and impact within customer success? So what are really those top few key actions that they can take?
I think they should understand the difference between productivity tools and automation tools. And the reason I say that is productivity tools will bring you like a percentage improvement, right? Like you say, you use certain productivity tools, you get it at 10%, 20% improvement. But if you look at companies like Braze and Autopilot, which is for like prospect marketing, not for uh, customer marketing, but if you look at them, you get like a return of 10x to 40x, whereas 10x to 40x compared to 15%, 20%. So consider the tools that you want to use, and have and don't be afraid to try newer ways of communicating with customers. And then also don't overwhelm your customers with data. Actually send them less information, but more meaningful information. And by that, I mean is, if you're already sending an email to them, why can't you just attach a digital business review at the end of it, right? Or things like that, versus as like creating a new email for every interaction that you have with the customer, or sending them a text, or sending them anything that you want to do, or showing, for example, all digital access platforms, adoption platforms rather, you can show all the digital business review directly in the product as a button or embedded within the website. So all those things are like possible.
Wow. I think that's great. And I love taking some chances and trying new ways to engage with customers. So you're going to find some things that really work better than you thought they would. And you learn a few things that probably didn't work as well as you'd hoped. And the only way to do it is to take the bold action. So I think that's great. Dickey, thank you so much for being here and being with us. Before we go, we want to invite you to give a shameless plug for your company, your product, your tool. I can tell everyone out there too, I saw a great demo of it and was blown away by what you guys are doing, and immediately see where this would be extremely valuable to a lot of folks. But we'd love for you to add your own shameless plug.
Yeah, actually just visit cast.app and or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Dickey Singh. And then you can sign up for a demo, or you can sign up for a forever free version of cast.app that you can use for your customers. So cast.app is the website to go, and I'm on LinkedIn.
I think that's the best plug ever. Sign up for free forever version. Absolutely.
Love it.
Dickey, as Jason said, look, man, this has been really cool, really exciting conversation. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Jason, nice to be here with you.
Thank you, sir.